Thank you, Mr. Minister. It was very big delight to hear you talking. You seem to have a very clear vision where Slovenia would be heading for in terms of the economic turmoils in Europe. So, of course, your list is very long, and years will show how things will turn out. In the last meeting of this AmCham, there was an interesting brochure of the Slovenian Times that was describing a little bit the investment atmosphere in Slovenia, and some of the things that were taken up in the sort of like first words of the brochure have already been addressed by the government. So one thing was how to become competitive on the global scene. I have seen that a new government is very much focusing also on the BRIC approach, the countries with the big economies. Then a second thing that was mentioned there, that it's important to have good relations with neighboring countries, and I have understood that the new government also is focusing very much of the areas close to your own country. One thing that I would like to ask you a little bit here has been talked about also about the social dialogue, because in this list that started with how to be competitive on the global scale, going then your neighboring countries. I have been here only 6 months, so to my big surprise, the list ended with being in good terms with your neighbors and having peace in the family. So this is, of course, some sort of inside process in the country, so that even in the list of like when your analysis are putting the challenges ahead. So my question to you would be, how would you like to comment on the last part? And I think this is closely related to the social dialogue that has been taken up here. Thank you.
Social dialogue is an important issue. Of course, in Slovenia, it's important for several reasons. One reason is that if you have some kind of agreement with social partners on what you want to do, it's easier to take the measures. And there were some successful cases in the past, for example, before Euro introduction, where it was possible to agree on the measures which were less, of course, strong than the ones we are proposing now, because there was not a necessity for stronger measures. It also is important because it is legally enshrined, and because they have, of course, the social partners, the trade unions, have this possibility to call a referendum if they are successful. On the other hand, we shouldn't create an impression that the fate of this country is decided between the government and the trade unions, because I think that is a wrong impression. It is decided actually differently. I think it is decided who wins the public opinion. You know, that is really important. Is the government able to convince the majority of the public? Because it's no doubt that we can convince the majority in the parliament, but are we able to convince the majority in the public, or at least enough, a big share of the population to avoid really big demonstration protests and so on, and which is more important for people to understand that we have to go along this way and why we are going along this way. And that is not social partnership. I mean, that is not social dialogue in the way we understand it. It is more a dialogue to the general public and maybe to other groups in the society which are not represented in the Economic and Social Council. So sometimes too much stress is put on this dialogue. So again, the fate of the country is not decided between the government and the trade unions, especially not between the government and the trade unions of the public sector. It's just one part of the whole story. And when I look at trade unions, I understand that they also have their constituencies and memberships. And they are in a similar way sometimes as the government. They have to balance what those who support them or are their members expect from them, and what is a responsibility to the country, which is something else. And at least one good thing about the referendum is that at the end, they have to convince the public. And I think the public is increasingly aware of the fact that what the trade unions are blocking and what they are not proposing is not the best way to go.
Public procurement, lowest based system of public procurement was heavily criticized for many years. It doesn't add to competition. It gives bad results for public institution at the end. So my question is quite simple. What are plans of present government in relation to this issue that is hampering development, we all believe?
We are now working on the first streamlining of the existing law, because there were some things that we have detected. In practice, one is the issue of non-eligibility of some companies because their managers were involved in some other companies. So we are looking for a better system there, because actually that's also challenged, as I understand it, the Constitutional Court. Another thing that we're looking at are these requirements for all people in the public sector to have special exams, because that's really bureaucratic, I think. Another thing we're looking at are these requirements for bidders in terms of guarantees and so on, whether we can simplify something there. But this is something that is now work is going on within the ministry. So you have any other concrete proposals, I'll be happy to have them quickly so that I can pass it to the people and ask them to look at that. Because we are actually going to propose some changes to the law, and we can include more if you have, and I'm sure you have some good ideas.
Thank you.